Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our very first Joyce stream. I am Aaron Mattocks, the Director of Programming at the Joyce Theater, and I want to thank you for joining us on this experiment that we hope will be a regular part of our ability to offer programming during this very uncertain time. We're committed to doing everything we can to continue bringing dance programming to you, our audience. We will continue to work to find ways to connect with you in many different forms. And this is one of them. I hope you enjoyed Grace live in the live stream. And I'm so thrilled to welcome Ron K. Brown and his collaborative team, part of the collaborative team, with us for a chat and some question and answer. And we look forward to seeing you on the other side of this. Please continue to follow us and continue to reach out and let us know what you'd like to see. So we'll just jump right in. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves and your role with the production? Ron, starting with you.
Okay, Ronald Brown, the choreographer for Grace, artistic director for Everett Dance Company.
And I am Peven Everett, musical director for Grace.
Great, thank you guys for joining us. So I think, Ron, if we could just start by, if you could tell us the story of Grace, how it came to be, you know, from the beginning, I guess.
So I met Miss Judith Jamison in 1987. She was creating a piece on Jennifer Muller, The Works. I had a concert that year, it's 1987, in a small church on the Lower East Side. Invited her and Rita Allen. She came to the show when came to the church. I was putting up chairs. When you're 21 years old, you're doing everything as a choreographer. But I guess I'm still doing that all these years later too.
Nothing's changed.
So she had a company in Philadelphia, Jameson Project, and she was asking me for videos. I didn't have anything years later. And then when she came to the Ailey Company, in 1996, she'd seen this piece I put on Cleo Parker Robinson Dance Ensemble. And she asked me I would like to introduce your work to my board of directors. I wanted to commission a piece from you. I said, oh my goodness, Ms. Jamison, how am I getting this opportunity, this young boy who was afraid to take a dance class, but made a dance after seeing the Ailey Company on a school trip when I was in second grade. Wow. And so I said, the first thing that came to my mind was Grace. Like, I was afraid to take dance classes. I said, Mommy, there's 80 girls. It wasn't true, but if you're the only boy, you feel like that. So I said, so how do I say thank you to this man who inspired me to actually have a dance company? And so Grace came first, that word. And because he loved Duke Ellington, I looked to Duke Ellington's sacred concerts. And I came across many versions of Come Sunday. I knew the version by Jennifer Holliday, but there's one song by a man, Jimmy McPhail. I said, so that'll be the bookends for this piece. And then in the song, it says, God, come see your people through. And so then this story started to write what this story could be. And basically was people on earth behaving as if they didn't understand God's grace. And so I started dreaming about, so there's some angels coming down to round up those people. And so how do I help tell that story? And then I came across Everett's Gabriel, which is Angel of Love, come down. And so that just, it kind of built from there. Then I just looked for music to help me dance those things out.
Yeah.
And so it premiered in 1999 on the Ailey Company.
Wow.
That's
a while back, man.
Yeah. And then I was like, so what is how do I costume these folks? And Wunmi Olaiya I've worked with since 1995. That long time. She had the idea to dress the people. It was amazing.
Wunmi, thank you for joining us. Do you want to say hi? We are in the middle of it.
Hi, guys.
Do you want to...
So yes, it's Wonderful. Always lovely to hear the story again about Grace, because the years of collaboration with Ron, Grace was at the time, it was a summer. It was summer. And we met at Washington Square Park when he told me about Grace, and I went away to go and conceptualize what he told me he wanted. And we met back again at Washington Square Park. Just imagine that place where so many people meet, and we sat down in front of the fountain, and I shared with him the sketches. And I was just so excited. It was going to be our first project for with Ailey. So I was just like, oh my God, teach me again. I'm really going to design for Albert Ailey. And it's just surreal. And the blessings about Grace, really, I feel it shows in the costuming, is that there was so much clarity from Ron as to what he visualized, what he felt, what he saw. He gave me poems, he gave me everything. That's literally that collaboration. I love about the collaboration is that he gives me tools that I'm able to go away with and allow myself to dream it and then come back to him. And till date, it's always been one of so much trust that it allows me to feel confident in what I bring back to him. So Grace had so much grace in it.
Hey.
Yes, indeed.
Peven, can you tell us a little bit about that song that Ron heard, and also how you got involved in Grace?
I got involved mainly because Ron kind of called me out of the blue, you know, and it was it was just like he said it, you know. He thought of that tune being what it was, but what that tune was for me was a protective tune. It was a tune to protect my spirit as long as I would be alive on this planet, and that I'd had to see this oh so tumultuous world develop in the way it has. And it was, you know, basically to make sure that I was going to live a blessed life somehow, and that I was going to devote my heart and my spirit to the creation and all things beautiful. So, you know, I made that tune to make sure that feeling and the euphoria in that song was something that, as long as I was hearing it and I could put it down, it was something I was definitely going to give to the people, to make sure that they knew that there was an actual space of utopic value that we could tap into if we allow ourselves to. So, you know, that tune actually was like my proof. It was a proof in the pudding for me, you know? And Ron, from there, I guess, heard me loud and clear, and I'm so glad he did. Our relationship has been epic, to say the least. And Wunmi touched me when I finally, you know, met her backstage and got to feel what her spirit was like and saw how her clothes moved. And that in and of itself is a whole nother animal that I would much rather leave in its special place so it remains special until I get back to it. But all I can say for Grace and how it has affected me.
I think it's quite meeting you in
The club.
I think meeting you at Bath was amazing, because I had known that song from being back home in London. And then when Ron chose that song in part of those it was just like, it was really epic, actually. Yes, that Gabriel, I danced it till I was stupid in London, you know, and coming back, you know, it was literally part of the whole. We had an ensemble of songs, and that was one that everybody go crazy over. So when Ron chose that as part of the songs for this piece, it was just felt so, everything just felt so right. And I feel also, you know, the journey, seeing that whole song performed with you live in it, it just, it really stays, like I said, it really spoke on the name of that song, Grace, the grace of it.
Yes.
The grace of it.
Indeed.
When you guys were talking about doing the live version, which is what the streaming recording is going to be or is, how did that come to take form? I know that Gideon Lester at the Fisher Center at Bard was bringing something together, but how did you guys organize it? It was such a profound experience to be in the theater at Bard watching Grace with the wall of musicians against the back. I mean, to say it personally, like my whole body was just covered in goosebumps. It was just like one of the most, I mean, I'm not saying, it's so rare that happens to me. And I remember as the last image sort of left us and the curtain came down, just being so overwhelmed by how deeply just impactful that work was, and the aspect of having the musicians live was just like, it took something that was already at the sort of height of its power and just like blew the roof off of this space. And I will say for this particular moment that I cannot wait for the world to be okay enough that we get to be in rooms like that again, because it is something that is unforgettable to me. You guys blew my mind. And Peven, I would love to hear a bit about what that was like to put all of the live music component together for the first time. And are there challenges like playing Ellington's music, or
sure.
And kind of like, how do you have to replicate a recording?
Yeah, there are times when you like to replicate the recording, because if you don't, the cues won't be where they need to be.
Right.
And a lot of times it's a lot more than just what the dancer's hearing, you know. It's sometimes, you know, a movement that they'll detect in their peripheral that's also lets them know, okay, I'm gonna be here, 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 here. Ronald will explain all that stuff to you. But he had to tell me that. He had to tell me that for me to be able to say, oh, this is my job to do this part then, so I can meet him halfway. He can just grab my hand, we can connect, and the process is done. And it was that simple. Between the two of us, we could usually figure out what to move, so everything works out. That's the best part about working with him. Putting those musicians together was fairly easy. But the even easier aspects were the aspects that would be a lot more difficult to attain, which is having the caliber of musicians that I had, and the addition of Michelle's musicians, which also added a variety to what I'd already heard. So it was, once again, the creator was coming in and saying, now this is something that you didn't see coming, but watch how it works. Just leave me to it. Don't get in the way. Just let it happen. And I did. And that's usually how it works with me and Ron. If you don't get in the way, you'll be all right. You know what I mean?
And Peven, it was the dancers who were like, no, Ron, we need this music right here.
Yeah.
About where those things needed to land.
Yeah.
When Gideon first started talking about having it live, like, oh, we wanted a musical director and da-da-da. And Peven was like, oh, I could do that too. And I was like, oh, is that going to be too much for one person to handle? And he said, no. And I remember one day I was working with the dancers, and let me go check to see what's happening with the musicians. And I was like, oh, wow, they are doing this in here. When it comes together, it's going to be off the charts.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
And I think one other element about the video that I want to give credit and acknowledgement to, aside from the extraordinary dancing, which we will also talk about, and the dancers, is the lighting design and the set. So simple, but just that central, the element of central entrances and exits. Was that devised with was that your scenic design or lighting designer, or was that Wunmi?
So from the beginning, this idea of these people getting another chance, basically, I knew that I wanted that, we call it the threshold. The mother God walks down there to have the conversation at the top of grace, and everyone exits to go at the end. And so that was always the image. And then different lighting designers have come on board with it. But Tsubasa Kame, who does the lighting for us now, is amazing. And he just makes it magic. Put collaborators together so I can give my ideas, and then I step out of the way because I'm not a lighting designer, not a costume designer, but I have people around me that I respect, and I can say, these are my ideas, and I just back up.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Wunmi go.
Yeah, Wunmi, will you tell us a bit more about your design process? Like what, having a conversation with Ron and going away and coming back, like what is your...
From when Ron and I first connected and we started working together, I basically said to him, let me do your costume. And he basically gave me that freedom. As a designer, I never really see myself as a costume designer. I see myself as a designer. I love, and being an artist myself, a dancer, a musician, I love movement. And it was never about costume per se, it was about people. And with Ron, what I really also appreciate with him is that he sees people. So the dancer's body are actually people. They're mother, father, son. You get what I'm saying? They're characters. So I'm not dressing to put on costumes. I'm actually dressing to pull out each individual person as who they are portraying. And that has always been it. So it's really like telling stories. So when he gives me a project, I'm always asking, so who is she? And what is their relationship? So that and when I'm pulling the pieces together, you could tell the story. You can read the story even if you do not know what it's about, just because of the way everyone carrying themselves. And so that's been one of the relationships with him. So I always say to people when they say to me about costume, I laugh because I don't think I'm doing costume. I feel like I'm creating. It's almost like it's like a story piece where you're putting clothes on people to pull out their character more. With Grace, when he told me the piece, it was like the feeling of white going into red. It was such something that you hear it, but seeing it's a whole other complete story. It's just a whole other thing. And doing the sketches, and we're now working with Ailey, where you have to provide everything, storyboard it and all of that. So now you actually get to see what you think and you're feeling before that next process of producing. Back then, I was still do everything woman, so I made, sewed, cut. It was kind of like, oh my God, that many bodies. And also when Ron was like, how many dancers, Ron? By the time he finished out, he was like, oh my God. It was a lot of bodies, uncles, fathers, grandkids. It's like, okay. But it was just so, to go back to someone who is writing, it's like he's writing a book and you're helping to put the colors on the characters, and being so able to get it right. It's there's no words for those. There's no words for those. And when they called me in to come and do this commemoration piece to it, and it was Mercy, it was quite deep because I was looking after my father at that time who was fallen ill, and the word mercy, asking for mercy. When you've done so much, by the grace of God and the mercy of it all. It's when everything worked out that I was able to. He was in Leicester in UK, and I was already in London, so we were able to meet there. It was just like I said, it's like we're gonna have to do this remotely because I don't know where I'm gonna be. So I went to meet him in Leicester, and was like, okay, so Ron, what do you think? What you see? And it's like, well, he didn't want to tell me because he didn't want to start with him putting something on me. I said, well, you tell me what you think, what you feel. He said, well, I'm seeing black. I said, well, do you know what? I'm seeing blue black. We just smiled. I was like, yes, yes, yes. And then I met Sebastian, and he showed me what he's seen and what he's visualizing. And that's the joy of working with creative people, where each person is able to bring something and share it. It's like a meal. It's like a meal you bring to the table, and everybody brings potluck, and each dish has a beautiful flavor, and it all blends in.
Very good analogy.
Yeah, thank you. Ron, taking what Wunmi was saying about the dancers and being people or showing characters or relationships and all of that, how in 20 years, you know, watching a dance evolve, the number of different casts who have performed the work, when you see it 20 years later, what about those relationships, or are you thinking, or do you watch it sort of remembering other cast members performing those roles? Like, is the stage full of the energy of former dancers also?
Definitely. So I think about the young angel that comes down, when Asha Thomas, who's in Paris now. Oh, now there's Joyce Edwards doing that part. So my mind's like, or Arcel, who used to do the Matthew role, now he's doing my part. Later on stage, Keon, who used to be the partner of Arcel, oh, now he's the angel at the back. And he's like a different age. So, oh my goodness, he was like 21 when he joined the company. I'm looking at the maturity of the dancers and how they kind of shift into different roles. And so there's the history of other dancers in the positions, and then it's actually the dancers in the company who have shifted. Where Anik Roberts, who used to be one of the women in the red. And so when Clarice Young left the company, and I was like, oh, who's going to do the part? And it's like, oh, Anik, right, she's been dying to do this role.
Yeah.
So you think about what the people in the company waiting to do certain roles. And so it's great to have that kind of relationship to a piece where people are like, oh, I've been waiting to do this role, right? And then at Bard, you had Matthew Rushing doing his part from 20 years ago. Like, what?
Yeah.
Wait, on stage with Curvin, who's in St. Louis, but had been investing with us for 4 years. When he was at the Ailey company, I said, oh, when he leaves, I'm not hoping that he leaves, but if he leaves, I can wait for him to dance with Evidence. When he left, he said, Ronald, moving to St. Louis with my husband. I said, oh man, I'm happy for you. I love that to work with his students. And he said, they were talking about dance, and I was saying, Curvin, you're not done? He said, yeah. The only company I want to dance with is Evidence. I said, done. If you're free and it can work out, we would love to have you. And so it was like my Bard was like, oh my goodness, Evidence plus these incredible dancers that I love sharing this stage. And then Subasa, I call him Captain Subasa. Because Evidence is at 8 people, and so at Bard, Grace had 12 people in the Ailey company. But for Bard, there were 13 people. And so Subasa cabbed me in the corner. He said, Ron, I thought you said that 12 was the most. 13 people on stage. I said, but Subasa, you're some of my favorite dancers, and I need them. So I love having that relationship with a piece of this old. And when Gideon said, has it ever been performed live? It's 20 years. That, wow, I didn't realize it's 20 years. You're just working.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about the time factor. I said, well, Peven has performed with us, to a track for a benefit. Jennifer Holliday has performed, but never live. And he said, okay, let's do it. I said, what? It was an incredible opportunity to have it done. So excited that when I called Peven and he said yes, I was like,
It was fantastic. It really was. It really was. Everything about it, man. Like, the camaraderie, the skill level, and to have the finished product be so much further than I could have ever thought it would would be anyways.
Mhm.
But, you know, I knew what it was like to work with people that are good, but when they were like so good that I have to make sure my game is on point too, like really, really on point.
Brother
Yeah,
Kevin, listen
that's
to
what I'm talking about. Now we talking.
but
Now
Kevin,
we're gonna evolve the music. We're gonna evolve the art, you know?
Kevin, listen to your voice when you watch this tape, the streaming, amazing. You're singing your butt off.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
crazy, okay?
thank you.
And then you
I
did Thriller section 2. You sang Shakara,
Yeah.
okay? Amazing, thank you.
Thank you for having me do it. It was fun.
So just a helpful note for the audience that is watching that this piece, Grace Live, which was commissioned by Bard Fisher Center, was paired with a new work called Mercy, which you guys have referenced. And that had a commissioned score by Michelle Ndegeocello. So just a small note for people who, because we're not streaming Mercy as well. A beautiful companion piece, and I think absolutely meant to be together.
Oh, incredible.
So maybe like
Serious.
a question for right now, because I think we all need artists to continue to inspire. Artists have always sort of led us through and out of the fray. And I wonder if each of you could share a bit about, and truthfully, it can be, you know, I'm frozen and not able to do anything, but just share how you're staying creative or the way that you're keeping sanity in this moment of isolation. And are you drawing, are you writing music, are you choreographing dances in your living room, you know? I'm not, or just, you know, watching the sunrise and set. I don't know.
So I'm mixing a lot of music, and cooking and resting, checking in with my family and people I love, and taking care of some business when I have to.
Yeah.
But having the priorities be clear. Yeah, it's a time to like be quiet and reflect and just love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You go ahead, Wunmi.
Oh, you know, it's quite deep for me because as I spent this time last year, I was caring for my beloved father, and I'm being back in Nigeria where he's Nigerian, and being with family at this time just seems so poignant because I couldn't be with them this time last year. I was with him, and when he passed away, many of them couldn't come over to England where he was. When he died, where I buried him. So to be here under these circumstances and where everything that's happening in all the three places where I am, UK, America, New York, and now Lagos, where the experience is equally the same. We're all on lockdown, and to be with family instead of being on my own, which would have been the case, I think is a lot to be grateful for, a lot to be grateful for. And one of the things I am doing is praying with my family in the morning, and then I do some plank exercise, which is something I have not done, the exercises. So I actually try to get back to my fitness run.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing that evidence challenge, you know. I've been getting that. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I haven't done it so long. So, but yeah, really, just being here is deep. Being here is so deep right now. It's beyond words to explain it. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, well, I'll have to say that, you know, it's been mind-blowing for me. But I'll say that the virus itself being around made the streets quite bare, of course. And it's brought down the crime level, but it's also done a lot to the human capability to have hope. And that hope has been has been damaged, I feel. And I have the job to repair that hope somehow, if it's man-made, because all things otherwise are of the Creator. So I'm gonna do my job and make music, make art, and love with the fullest capability that I have. And because after that, there's really nothing else.
It's thank you all for the work that you do and for sharing it with us, and for continuing to think about how we get out of this, how we come out of this. And yeah, thank you, Peven. That's very deep. And I agree. I feel like this has provided an opportunity for prioritizing care and connection with our people, our communities, our folk, our, you know, parents, families, friends, loved ones. And it's trying to find hope and gratitude and love. I think it's really, powerful, and all of that you guys have given us. So thank you again. And I think this is a perfect way to wrap up and say goodbye. I will say to the Joyce crowd that we're doing this hopefully again next week with Hervé Kubi, a French choreographer. So please, you know, keep checking in with us. But for all of you guys here, sending you and yours safety and health. And thank you for making my day better today. It's been really.
Thank you so much. Love you guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you all too. I feel it's just good. Let the love keep flowing. Let the love keep flowing.
Indeed. Love you, babe.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Much love.